Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen. Now, Australia is pushing towards a more Orwellian system, at least with the airports, as they plan for 2019 to 2020 to replace passports with facial recognition. So John, can you go a bit into this? This sounds exactly like that kind of push towards a cashless society that we've talked about for a while, but on another level, as you've mentioned to me before, it's kind of like the technocracy that people like Patrick Wood talk about.
Well, it totally is. It's just a control grid that you can control people electronically. It's almost like an AI system, ruling the world basically, instead of like the people that have been there before. It's just basically replacing everything with the electronic control grid that would, make sure that you would adhere to whatever it is within that government.
Well, and it seems like a bit of a violation of civil liberties in a way, too, because it's kind of like what the United States was pushing under, say, the Patriot Act or the NDAA, a huge control grid where they surveil everyone, they have everyone's face, they can, and especially what's worrying, because I'm a bit conspiracy-minded to admit that, they have had this idea of creating this system so that they can make people look like they're saying things. They've got this technology where they can say things and make it look like on video, like other people are saying it. It just worries me when government has control over such a mechanism, such a control complex where they can manipulate people, they can spy on people, they can control people's actions, and on top of that, just the freedom of movement involved. I'm not a big fan of passports either, but I mean, this is another step up into kind of what, like I said, Orwellianism.
Well, it starts to get very similar to Minority Report with Tom Cruise, where, when he walks around, they catches his retina, like his iris, and then they just send the commercials that he has, they've been configured for him. So it's just a massive control grid to, be able to make sure that every single human being the big corporations could sell to them, and the big governments could control every single move that you have. And of course, with the cashless society on top of this, which is also New Zealand has talked about this, Australia has mentioned it as well. It is all about creating this massive grid of surveillance on people, and they don't like that we have any privacy.
Well, they always have like these excuses that it's for this or that, for advertisement, as you kind of mentioned there or alluded to. And I can't help but notice that here in Canada, when I go to a certain business, I don't have to type it in on my phone. I don't have to type it in on my computer. I don't have to do any of that. I go to a certain business and I come home and there's advertisements for that business all over my computer. I was talking with my father not that long ago about how to wrap a burrito. I didn't go online. I didn't look anywhere for that. I was talking about the way to wrap a burrito, and next thing I know, I go online and there's how to wrap a burrito on the side of my screen. They're obviously listening to us, and they use that excuse. It's for advertisement. It's for targeted advertisement. But there's got to be a lot more to that, because we know what the government is. We know what kind of entity it is, and we know that they're not to be trusted with anything.
One example with Britain has used where they actually just suck information. They have like a whole bunch of little units out there that sniff on people's cell phones and pull information from them. And that's how a lot of this advertisement happens as well. It basically knows that you've been at that location, right, Josh?
Well, yeah, it tracks you everywhere.
And then it just tells you on your Facebook, because it sees that you have been geolocated at that location, because you have a constant tracking going on with all kinds of array of systems that are on there to make sure that they know exactly what you've been up to, so they could, make sure that they can try to sell you something. But
they can track you with your cell phone. They can track you with cameras. In London, as you kind of alluded to again, like there are cameras on basically every corner, every bit of London
CCTV, is like capital in the world.
Oh, absolutely. And it's everywhere. And I think there was actually a Canadian TV show on not that long ago. The name escapes me, but they talked about that as well, where they show the police and the secret militarized units finding people in seconds because they saw, okay, it was on this camera, this business's camera, that business's camera. They're hooked into every single one, and they're like, okay, that guy is there, and he's forecasted to be there at this time.
Let me tell you this, as I am actually installing CCTV cameras at several places, and there's software out there that is way than more capable of pulling all this off. So it's not that it doesn't exist. It definitely does exist. They have, of course, license plate recognition software out there, especially on the borders. There's gas stations now. There, a lot of them has it. But let's get back to Australia.
Yeah, what's exactly
what
happening
their plans
in Australia?
are. So they have plans to, implement and replace their passport with a biometric system that includes face, iris, and fingerprints. And then also what they want to do, they want it to be completely automatable. So it's just going to be you in a booth, and then it does the whole thing, and then you pass. It's completely different from, today you pass a border, there's actually a clerk there that, asks you some questions, and then you go pass it. This is not like that. This is completely automated. And who knows what kind of information they want to be legible, because now you don't have that person asking you anything. Or what information are you going to be able to connect and then suddenly stop you from being able to travel because you haven't been complying with your tax, like anything. It could be anything, right? So this is very dangerous, and of course Australia wants to implement this first at their Canberra airport, where it's scheduled for November this year. They want to just first limit it to New Zealand and Singapore travelers, but for of course Australians. But this is the first major move that they're having towards this control grid, and there's of course been people like Patrick Wood and others that have talked about this technocracy, this control grid, that they want to have this technology that controls human beings. I think it's very important for people to understand they actually have had a system in place, and this is at JFK Airport and also at the Washington Dulles Airport. They tested systems out there in 2015 and 16. So the United States is also doing this. I don't know what Trump is going to do about this. He's talked about stronger borders. So who knows where where that's going to pull in from the surveillance part of this. We don't know yet. It's too much unknown about Trump and that policy, because he has talked about, of course, the surveillance and how good it is. So that kind of worries.
Well, it's all very vague, and I think this is another example of how Skynet is here. The creation of Skynet is unfolding in front of us. Of course, it's a fictional system, but the fact is it is happening in real life at a different level. Maybe at a different time frame, maybe at a different extent, but it's happening all the same, and it all adds up to controlling and hurting the populace. So, John, what is your bottom line? What do you think this will lead to in the long run?
Well, in the long run, if we let this continue, as we said, it's going to be a massive worldwide control grid of movement of people, your monetary means, your medical, what you like to do, and anything. If you it's like the Sesame Credit, for example, that they implemented in China, how obedient you are to the government online. If you talk bad about it, your Sesame Credit goes down and so on. So I think this is like their dream, to implement these systems.
Next is RFID.
And align them. Oh yeah, and of course that, like how we have on our credit cards and debit cards now here in Canada. I know for sure. I know there's other countries that are implemented it too, but they have RFID cards in them. And of course you present your hand because you have to tap it. So it's kind of like, I don't know, like we talked about conspiracy, but it's, you're getting used to it.
And so many lemmings are just going, oh, wow, it's such a cool technological advancement. I'm going to do it. I'm going to volunteer to do it. And someday, unfortunately, it will likely not be a voluntary thing unless people stand up before then. But then also there's the fingerprint currency in Japan. There's we've talked about so many of these things before, and it just keeps unfolding. The cashless society that enslaves you to the banks, because the banks own your money, not you. And if all your transactions go through the bank, that means the banks own all of your money and you never own your money. And, they can do whatever they want with it. So this is all elapsing in front of us, this technological age. There's a lot of good sides to it, but this is definitely not a good side to it. This is a huge infringement on civil liberties and privacy, and there's no way to really opt out unless you stay in your little box within your country and never leave. And I mean, that's the thing. It's enslaving you to either become part of the system or stay at home. And some people have to travel. Some people need to go places. Some people want to go places with their family. And this puts them all at risk of being totally spied on at all times. Of course, John and I were already on all the facial recognition technology but at this point because of our videos. But the fact is there is a lot of people out there that are not. And it's just wrong. It cuts out any ability to have privacy, the little remote amount that's left. And I think we need to stand up to this as soon as possible because this is not going anywhere good. And as long as people are apathetic to it or find it cool because it's a new technological marvel, the sooner we'll be further enslaved, and it's only happening faster and faster every year. And I think it's time that we do something about it. So thanks a lot, John, for bringing this story to us. It's so crazy. It's such a crazy time to be alive. And, there's a lot of hope, but there's a lot of bad stuff happening, too, that kind of makes us lose hope. We just got to be strong and make sure that we are able to be dependent on ourselves, sustainable, and work towards helping ensure the safety and security of our families outside of the state and monetary system that is trying to enslave us and put us in absolute servitude. So thanks again, John. We'll come back at you with much more. Stay tuned. Check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated. And of course, check in the description and the comments as well for the ANARCHAPULCO reference link, where you can save 10% on your tickets at ANARCHAPULCO by typing in promo code WAM. That's WAM. So we'll be back at you with much more. Stay tuned. This is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.